So we focus on everything, right? Because the good supply chain management, has to focus on everything. It's like a Swiss clock. Imagine 200,000 shipments every month. That's the massive amount. So you cannot really focus on one or two. That's why the automation is very important. It's a high entry barrier, but it's also very noble goal.
Cześć, nazywam się Marcin Kowalski, jestem CTO GFT Polska i zapraszam Was na mój wideo podcast piąTech, w ramach którego rozmawiam z moimi gośćmi o biznesie, technologii i o tym, jak biznes i technologia wpływają na siebie nawzajem. Zapraszam do oglądania. Hi everyone, this is Marcin Kowalski. I am the CTO of GFT Poland and today I'm talking with Thomas Zakrzewski. Hi Thomas.
Thank you for having me, Marcin.
Hi. Today's episode is somehow unusual because we are going to have it in English because Thomas is not willing to speak to us in Polish, even though he's very fluent in Polish. Welcome again.
Thank you.
Thomas, so how, what your link with Poland is, or very briefly, your personal history. How old were you when you left Poland and where you ended up in the world?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I'm very proud of my heritage in Polish. So I was born in Poland, obviously.
All right.
I went to a variety of different schools and I ended up in a University of Physical Education in Warsaw. So I study, physical education. And then I left to United States. It was like 86 or 88, something like something around that time. And I only left for vacation, so I'm supposed to come back. That never happened. I overstayed.
Right.
First time I came back was 96, and the rest of history. So I spent majority of my life in the United States, but I know English. I know actually Polish very well. I do not know Polish from the technical terms, in the technical terms. So just very difficult for me to talk about the technology in the Polish language.
Oh yeah,
That's the only reason why we speaking in English right now.
I can tell you that that's the same case for people for who Polish is a native tongue. We also struggle to use Polish with technology because everything in technology is in English. So anyway, as far as I know, you continued your education in the States, and you have some important, significant background in academia as well.
Yes, that's right. So when I was in Poland, I was studying mathematics and physics. I was the fourth in Ekane in high school, physics. I really liked that, mathematics and physics. Yet the first exams for the universities was in University of in Warsaw in physical education. So once I'm passed, I just said, I'm not going to take the other exams. I'm going to be University of Physical Education. But then when I emigrated to United States, I noticed that there's no way I can continue that education in the United States. Let me go back to mathematics. I started mathematics in my Clarkstead University. I quickly realized that computer science is the future. I completed my computer science education in my Clarkstead University. Then I moved to Minnesota. I started software engineering master degree. I moved back to New Jersey. I attended business school in Rutgers, and then I started my master degree in predictive analytics in Northwestern University in Illinois. And I just graduated just recently, 3 years ago actually, from that. So I never left the school, and even if I briefly left the school, I was always on a board of advisory. So I was on the Rutgers board of advisory, New Jersey Institute of Technology, advisory board, and also I stay in MSU, which is the Montclair State University. I'm an advisory for the computer science, information technology. Oh, and a matter of fact, I'm actually adjunct professor over there as well. So,
You just almost forgot to mention that.
I almost forgot to mention that, yes.
Right. Sounds like a perfect background for a CTO role.
For sure, yes, because that it's a mixture of technology, the experience, actually practical experience, and theoretical actually knowledge, which I believe the CTO always have to embrace both to be successful at the work.
Yeah. And now, fast forward to 2020 something, and you meet Damien, and you found KatalX. Or how did it?
Yeah,
how did it go? It was like his idea, your idea. You both had this idea.
It was Damien's idea.
Okay,
I have to say it. In 2020, I was working in S&P ratings, and I decided to leave S&P ratings in 2020, and I started with a colleague of mine, another company, which was the Edge Data. It was about encryption, about access management. We started this company. We could not find the funding. So in 2021 or 2022, I believe, I was actually put together with Damien in some interviews. So Damien interviewed me for position in Capgemini for blockchain. And then he mentioned something, why you want to stay in a blockchain? Why don't you go for like supply chain management? And I said, well, it's a possibility. I mean, I know a lot of technologies that are used in the supply chain management. And we basically just, that was the time that we met together. In 2022, in the beginning of 2022, somehow we reconnected. I forgot actually how. Oh, yes, I remember. I actually asked Damien to be interviewed for blockchain technologies because I was teaching a class in Montclair State University. And I had an idea to interview professionals who are knowledgeable about the blockchain and implement the blockchains in their organizations. So I asked Damien to be interviewed. And while I asked him to be interviewed, he asked me if I'm open for work opportunities. And he introduced me to KatalX. We had probably about 5-10 meetings. Each meeting actually, and that was a daily meeting, so like about an hour. And I said, yes, I can do that for you. And that's how actually KatalX started from the technology point of view. From the business point of view, I think Damien did such a great job to, he invested a lot of his personal time to study the topics, to study our competitors, from early on, study essentially the state of the supply chain management. And that was basically just revealing the state of the supply chain management because of the COVID. Supply chain management ties up essentially on the supply and the production and supply of anything to the consumer. So I was very interested about the problem itself. I have done some analytics on the supply chain management back in 2019, 2018 even, when I was on S&P ratings and S&P market intelligence. So I was very much interested. We kind of stick together. We knew technology, ground base very well on a blockchain, which is a big component of our offering in KatalX. And that's how I got attracted to it. I love that job. And I love to work with Damien. I mean, he's really like a business mind behind it. So,
all right. So now I guess it's good time to actually tell what KatalX does. What is the problem that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so the KatalX is trying to solve the problem of visibility and collaboration at supply chain management. So the problem is a very old problem. And even though we have probably for a decade, different type of technologies. Nobody was able to put together all these technologies. It's like a melting pot. Okay, it's like being in New Jersey and speaking in English. When you have so many nationalities and you learn and hearing the different languages. The same thing with the supply chain management. When you have so many technologies put it together, so you have artificial intelligence such as the automation, like robotics. You have machine learning because you do a lot of machine learning. You have to learn from the data. You have access control because not everyone can access the trade information about the supply chain management workflow. So you have to protect this information and enable that information to be visible to some but not all. Then you have trusted information. So you have to somehow ensure that information which flow into the system has been non-repudiated, meaning that has been signed by the entity that is truly identified as an entity. And then you have the IoT devices, which essentially just producing a lot of information about temperature, geolocation, shocking, and etc. So you have like multiple different technologies melted together into the one gigantic platform that has to make the sense for each of the party. And there's multiple parties. There are shippers, freight forwarders, consumers, consignees, customers, orchestrators. I mean, you can name it, and sometimes the experts in supply chain management, they calling the same thing, like a shipper, an orchestrator.
And now, so you mentioned like endless number of parties and like challenges, I guess. So what part of this, which puzzle in this is what you're trying to solve in KatalX? What you focus on?
So we focus on everything, right? Because the good supply chain management, okay, has to focus on everything. It's like a Swiss clock, okay? If you have the one of this trip, okay, the sprockets that does not work well, it affects the other sprockets in this whole machine. So you have to focus on everything. And unfortunately, the technology is very complex. So you cannot have the one person who is knowledgeable about everything. So that's why it's so complex to put this platform together and have that knowledge combined and give you the insight, okay, for the information that each party is going to look for it. So we call our platform visibility and collaboration. Okay, so you may actually think about, where is my shipment and every minute, okay, and if I can collaborate with all the parties that are responsible for the shipment at the given time. So that's basically a major two things, like collaboration and visibility. But these two words encompasses so many different technologies that makes the whole platform very complex.
Right. And in this visibility or maybe collaboration department, how do you solve the problem of so many parties being involved? Because as far as my understanding of supply chain issues go, the major problem is that there are many counterparties. Not every one of these parties is reliable. Possibly they may not be reliable, or even not in terms of reliability, but in terms of like some bugs in the system or complexity. It's very hard to, I guess, ensure that everything goes according to plan and everyone like does exactly what he agrees to do.
That is correct, right? So and it's not only about the individual workflows, shipment workflows, right? But the scalability of these workflows, right? So imagine 200,000 shipments every month, right? That's the massive amount, okay? So you cannot really focus on a one or two. That's why the automation, robotics automation is very important because you have to ensure that every work process is executed, Okay, but you only focus on those that having a problems, which is essentially just let's say a 0.5%, right? So if you have a 200,000, okay, we're talking about the 1,000 shipments out of 200,000 every month that have some problems, and you only have to focus on this 1,000. So in a collaboration, we use ABAC, which is the attribute-based access control. This is essentially a NIST standard or NIST specification that has been around for ages. I mean, we're talking about 2012, I believe, that has been issued NIST specification about the attribute access control. And I was, a fortune. I was working with one of my colleagues in S&P ratings where I got to know attribute-based access control. So I studied that technology for 7-8 years. We implement that technology in KatalX, and that helps us essentially to have a really nice collaboration between the parties, which is very secure as well. I also was involved in a blockchain in a S&P ratings, where I was the head of blockchain at S&P ratings. So that enabled me to get to know the technology that enables actually the signature of the messages. Okay, so when you digitally sign the signature, we can verify that this is coming from the particular party or is not. So that's part of the collaboration and security of the systems.
So the supply chain is very ubiquitous in a sense that it's everywhere and it's being used in very different business scenarios, like buying shoes or maybe buying something more critical to people's lives. So is there any specific area or vertical that you are focusing on and trying to help?
Yes. So the KatalX, it doesn't really care whether you ship the toilet paper or cell and gene therapies, right? Which is the life-saving cell and gene therapies for the patients for the cancer treatment. Nevertheless, when you basically sell across the oceans and sell and ship the toilet paper, you don't really care about the humidity. You don't care about the light exposure or the temperature exposure, right? This is much less of a concern. While in a cell and gene therapies, right, or some of the drugs that are sensitive to the temperature, you really care about the conditions of the movement of the shipment, because they have to be, let's say, in a minus 80 degrees Celsius, or they have to be in ambient between the 2 and 8. So there are differences, right, between shipping a toilet paper and shipping cell and gene or vaccines. We focus on the high end. I would call the high end because it requires the high end touch, special handling. Also the information about the drug certifications, about the information, where's that ingredients to collect it for the drug manufacturing, where are they coming from? Those information are very important. In a toilet paper, you don't really care whether that came from recycled paper, recycled wood, or some kind of jungle in Amazon, right? I mean, those are basically secondary issues. But in a manufacturing of drugs, when patient safety is at most important factor, you need to know actually where's those drugs are coming from, what temperature they're exposed to, because every drug has a life shelf. And the more exposure has, let's say, to the light sometimes, or to the temperature, the life shelf actually decreases. Okay, so you have to focus on those things to trace and track, okay, to make the assumptions based on those information. What's the life shelf for this particular drug left? Whether it's 5 months left or 2 months left. Very famous examples was in the United States during the corona, when the Pfizer distributed coronavirus, the drugs, they had to the vaccines. Yes, I'm sorry. They had to administer within 2 days. There was a reason why they have to be distributed within 2 days, just because they were exposed apparently to a higher temperature, and the life shelf decreases from 60 days to, let's say 3 or 4 days. If they would go beyond the 3-4 days, efficacy of that drug would be, let's say, from 80%, 90% to maybe a 50, 60%. So that was the reason, why they have to increase distribution, to shorten the time of it. So that's how important it is.
So it sounds to me that your main clientele is pharmaceutical companies.
For the time being, yes.
Okay.
That's the pharmaceutical companies.
Okay, so you chose the most challenging supply chain.
It is, yeah. It's a high entry barrier, but it's also very noble goal and objective, right? I mean, saving the life of the patient, it's much more noble than deliver the high value wine to someone in a Long Island household. I'm not saying that this is the bad thing. I like the wine as well.
Me neither. So how? But these companies are around for quite a while, so they need to manage the supply chain challenges now. And so what are the main? How do they do it without KatalX, or what precisely enables them to do it better with your platform?
Well, they do manage today. I'm not saying that they don't, right? But it's much more difficult for them to manage. And as they scale their productions, okay, they are basically unable to put more people to care about those shipments. I mean, there is a physical capabilities. I mean, is it called actually not the Murphy's Law, but the Peterson laws, I guess, right? There is essentially a number of people that you can put to manage the supply chain management, right? But when you reach the capacity that you cannot basically put more people to deliver more, what do? Okay, and I believe that we believe at the KatalX that many companies reached actually that point. It's the boiling point that beyond that, okay, they cannot really manage efficiently all their shipments. So they need some kind of platforms. I'm not saying the KatalX is very unique. Well, it is very unique, but it's not the only one in the market. There's many platforms that are trying to solve the very similar, issues. So that issue exists, and I believe that scalability and a precision of attacking these problems are the differentiation factor for the platforms to be successful today.
Right. So you just what you said just made me think about this classic question about UVP, so like unique value proposition. You said that KatalX is unique. So what is this unique magic sauce that you provide?
Well, we combine lots of different technologies. So that's very unique. Okay, and this is just because myself and Damon are coming from the very highly technical backgrounds. We are capable actually embrace all these backgrounds, technologies, and include those in the KatalX and manage the highly, scalable, I should say, the teams. So we partner with the company today that is able to produce the software for us based on our specifications. So that's certainly, it's one of the factors, understanding. And the other factor, as I mentioned to you, KatalX was not born over the 1 year. Okay, we developed the platform pretty much over the 1 year, but the KatalX born 2 years before we start even technology journey. It came with the planning. It came with understanding of the customer base. What is needed? Where are the gaps? And fortunately and unfortunately, right? I mean, there was a COVID era. okay, that those gaps were exposed rapidly and dramatically. So you could see it, right? And that was the time when Damon focused on KatalX. So he was basically a preview firsthand just to see where the gaps are, how those gaps could be addressed. When you are advanced in platform development, is very difficult to. It's like a moving train. It's very difficult to make changes or rapid changes. It's like moving the train from one, from one track to another track. Not only because it's heavy, right? But if those trains actually are moving, that's even more difficult, like moving between the tracks, right? For that reason, any platform that has been developed before, they have probably a disadvantaged position, right? Because they notice what the gaps are, okay? And now they are trying to address those gaps in the platforms that are well established, okay? So it's much more difficult to make those changes, especially when your platform is not developed in a modular way, okay, that you can add those modules, okay? You have to basically just rip apart, essentially, the core of it, okay, and create the new ones, okay? How we approached that was a little bit different, okay? First of all, we studied the business, we studied the customer needs, each of the party needs, and then we look at what the standards are. And likely we've won the GS1, and we are voting member of the GS1 as well, a well-known standard. Our platform is based on a GS1. That helped us out, okay, to build the platform because GS1 is now already for several years that attacking those problems, the supply chain management. And there's a number of smart people working on the GS1 standards. Okay, and so if you embrace those, you essentially have a kickstart from the smart people. Okay, so we're not like very origin probably in that side. Okay, but we take the advantage of some work that has been done, and we enhance that work with our work.
Right, and now there's 2023, so the technology landscape is very, very complex. There are lots of technologies that were developed over like recent last decade, and it changed significantly, like the introduction of cloud or development of or distributed ledger technology. So from your point of view, or from the point of view of KatalX platform, what are the technologies that enable what you do?
I think when you're a startup company, I don't see really startup successful without the cloud. Okay, because that's basically build the foundation for the startup to start up something very quickly, to build very quickly a very solid foundation architecturally, securely, and with the help of every organization to have a cloud. I mean, there is a number of programs, right, that let's say the Amazon AWS enables startup to be successful. I'm pretty sure Google is the same way. I'm pretty sure that Azure is the same way, Oracle, and any other platforms. So that gives you capability actually to start your business very quickly. There's a lots of technologies that enables you to stitch together the functionality instead of building the whole plumbing by yourself. So I think the cloud is a necessity for any startup to be successful. That's one thing. Then also, when you are in the cloud, all these technologies, obviously they went through this life cycle. So they went through this, ups and downs, and there's a lot of developers that gives you the idea, do this or don't that, right? I mean, don't do this, right? So I think that when you go on a cloud, you have a good base of issues that has been resolved for you. So if you listen and you follow the guides that you can find out on the internet, directly on AWS, Google, Azure, or whoever whichever cloud you decide to build your organization on, you're going to find out that you have 50, 60, maybe even sometimes 70% built out already for you. So whatever it's left is like a pure engineering, pure architecture. If you remember in the old good ages when we talked about the object-oriented programming.
Right? Oh, we still do. Don't
worry. Yes, but it's more on a component base now, right, than just a purely object. But, it's almost like a Lego, right? You still have to correctly assemble these Lego pieces, right? But at least you have those pieces ready for you.
Yeah. So cloud is like today, I think it's a very classic example of technology that enables a lot, especially in the startup world, where the cost to start a company and build infrastructure is very important. You mentioned blockchain a few times now. So, and blockchain is a type of technology that there's a lot of love and a lot of hate around it. I guess that even today, people are still struggling to understand what's the real value behind it. So, do you use it, and how? Where blockchain is in what's the position of blockchain in your solution?
Yeah, so a little disclosure here, right? I mean, I am adjunct professor in Montclair University for blockchain and its application.
So you are.
So I might be a little bit biased.
You may be biased towards actually promoting.
Well, no, actually,
which is
I'm
okay.
not. I'm not. I'm very practical about the blockchain, okay, because I know inside out of the blockchain. Matter of fact, I used to work on a blockchain where it was not called a blockchain because all these technologies, okay, has been developed long time ago. Okay, I mean, encryption and crypto methodologies, okay, has been known for the years. Okay, I mean, this is not something that has been developed in 2010, 2008 when Satoshi came up. Okay, those things has been for a long time. In 1996, I was working in IBM on a compression algorithm. Okay, which is the first and fundamental block for the encryption. Okay, I was working on a 509, which is the X509, which is the certificates, the client server certificates. So that's basically a signatures, okay, and verification of the signatures, okay, for the entities. So all these technologies has been existing for a long time. So I would not actually discount the blockchain because the blockchain is essentially just a novel from the cryptocurrency. And from the economic point of view of creating something that is almost like a cloud, okay? It's like you're creating application on the blockchain is almost like using a cloud to create basically your startup company, okay? It has all the building blocks that you can use to do the transactions on a blockchain. Now, where blockchain would be useful in the supply chain management, I think it's going to be very useful for the serialization, for tracking serialization of the drugs. Okay, now we today struggle with that, and everyone is doing its own way. I mean, every country actually is doing its own way. In America, United States has its own way. There's basically NDC number, and you track that way. If we have a global identification method for suppliers and for the drug manufacturings, that would be ideal. Now, where we are with the blockchain with this, I think we just about 7-8 years away from that, okay, because each transaction would have to be essentially recorded on the blockchain, and those transactions cost should be minimal. Right now, I think the cost is about like 25 cents for the transaction, and that is prohibitive essentially for the vaccine, because I cannot imagine a single vial where the cost of manufacturing is maybe at 25 cents or 50 cents, right? The cost of vial is, I think it's between like $2, $3, $4. That the big portion of that would be, dedicated to the blockchain to issue the serial number for that. So I think that we are like 7 years away. I think I was watching the podcast in Ernst & Young, I believe, and they were talking about this Nightfall, the blockchain where NFT would be used for the civilization, and they were talking about a penny for transaction to be enabled in 5-7 years. So I believe that this is a true statement, that we could see it actually blockchain resurrected in that area in 5 to 7 years. Besides that, I mean, I know that a few companies tried the blockchain for the supply chain management. I'm not sure how they successful been. First of all, blockchain is still a new technology, even though we've been working on a blockchain since 2016. At least that's where we started to work on an S&P ratings in 2016, 2017. I even have the patent base on the blockchain for the protection of private information. And I still believe that it's still complex, and we still don't have too many developers to be very efficient with that. Okay, so for many developers, that technology is still kind of out of reach, or would require a few months actually of training, which they did not decide actually to take the training upon themselves. Other than that, I think that blockchain could be very useful for some use cases, business use cases, when non-repudiation or erasability, permanency, in other words, is important.
This is something to very much deal with, right? Not just non-repudiation.
So we do actually use not the blockchain technologies. Okay, so we use non-repudiation. We use essentially technology in AWS that enables us actually to maintain non-repudiation and maintain permanency. And this is important for the insurance, for example, because if something got wrong and you filed a claim, you want to ensure that the claim will be properly adjusted. So I believe that the InsurTech would be very much interested in technologies such as the KatalX provides and the other platforms such as like a KatalX, okay, to quickly adjust the claims. Because things are happen. I mean, I mentioned to you 0.5%. Okay, but if you have a large number of shipments, that's the large number. And usually those adjustments takes anywhere from 1 month to 6 months. Okay, with platform like ours, when you have properly defined records and you can audit those records and you can be sure that those records were not altered in any kind of way, you can basically just clear those things in 1 day or 2 days and make the adjustment in a following hour. So I think that 1 month, 6 months of investigation, a lot of man hours spent on finding out the truth. When you go to the KatalX and have within a minute making a decision, what's the claim and how that should be adjusted is the huge achievement for the InsurTech and for the customer at the end, right? Because they find the claim.
Right. Moving on to the role that you have at KatalX, you, as far as my understanding goes, you are a CTO, but you're also chief of product. So how does it work out for you?
It's actually an interesting story about this, right? Because when we discussed with Damon, first my position, my role, he said, well, would you like to be a chief technology officer? I mean, I have already in my title the chief information officer, head of this, head of that. So I thought, I think it's right. Okay, but who's going to be actually build the product? And Damon said, you. So go build the product and define the technology. So my answer to that is that a highly digitized product Okay. You need to know a lot about the technology, and you need to know a lot about what you're building. So you need to be chief in everything. You need to be a chief in a product and a chief in a technology. And in a larger organizations, the chief technology officer could be oversees the whole company, technology, let's say directions and etc. But in a larger industry, in a larger company, also when you have the products, you can have the chief technology for the product. Okay, I have seen that in S&P. There's a chief technology of the platform. That worked very well because that chief technology of the platform was focused on the platform itself, not in the technology of the company itself. Okay, but the platform. And I believe that we filed the same suit, which is essentially knowledge about the product, which I need to have in order to write the specification, and knowing how the technology will apply to fulfill the specification, plus technology when I have to be intimate with this technology, have to know how that works. Not necessarily be hands-on, although I'm trying as much as I can, to be hands-on, but that is probably a history. Although on analytics, I'm pretty hands-on at, so that's my passion. So
sure, everyone does this. Really, I think that every manager that has its roots in technology tries to get its hands dirty when he or she can find opportunity to. I do code sometimes as well.
Did you hear that?
So, anyways, another angle is your background in academia. So many people that I talk to who have some roots in academia, they have specific views on working in business or with business. So I'm wondering what your view is. How do you make these two words meet and cooperate?
Yeah. So that's an interesting story too. My father was a teacher.
All right.
So I came from that family. Maybe that runs in the family. I always was close to academia. Okay. I remember even when I was on IBM, and I started studying basically software engineering at the University of Minneapolis. I noticed that not too many students were from IBM, just because what we did at IBM was like a far advanced that has been taught in Minneapolis. Essentially in everyone, curriculum of the computer science, for example. But I always, I always were close to academia because I want to know what being taught. Okay, whether there are different methods of teaching certain things, certain topics, and it's like Latin is a closed language, so you cannot teach anything new. I think in the technology, specifically in the computer science, even though the mathematics, applied mathematics, right, there are new methods, there are developed methods, and I think that there is a connection of what is happening in a real time in a business and in academia. And that collaboration has to be a little bit tighter. I think that academia could benefit a lot from get to know what is being done in the business, okay, and vice versa, because I think that lots of research is pretty advanced, okay, but it's not probably being used or utilized by the business. So I think I felt like very strongly that there needs to be a bridge, needs to be the bridge of the gap. And I thought I'm ideally situated in that because I still love to be in a school, in a capacity as a professor or in a capacity as an advisor. I love to basically just bridge this gap. The other thing, why I'm close to academia, is because as a chief product officer, I believe that we are designing the product for the future, not for today or tomorrow, but for the future. Me and you, when we're going to retire someday, we don't want actually that platform to be revamped. Okay, what we want to do is a continuation of that. Okay, and I know that teaching the classes, for example, give me the exposure of young students, what their capacity is, what their capabilities are, what the desire is. Okay, what's that platform is missing? Because if they're going to enter the workforce, let's say in a 3 to 5 to 7 years, what that platform is missing today, what we need to put on the platform so they will continue the journey that we started a year ago. So I think that link resonate with my goals, objectives, to stay close to academia. And also, I'd love to share my knowledge. I came to the point that I can be secretive, not saying anything, or I can be quite open when I can, of course, and share my knowledge and have students to benefit from this. Right. I choose the latter.
So it's truly impressive, the scope of your activities and like the different areas that you cover in your professional career. So I would really like to hear from you what people very often talk about, exciting new technology that changes the world and makes makes us progress faster. What is there any technology or like the path that the IT world took that you think was a mistake or is a mistake today?
As a technology, probably not. I mean, I really like everything that happens. Okay, I was very impressed about predictive analytics early in the past decade. Robotics was fantastic. Machine learning, right, was another one, okay, which is a part of predictive analytics anyway. Cybersecurity was another one that was accelerated dramatically over the past 10 years. So I have seen pretty much convergence of all of those. So I don't have any regrets. I think this is all good things. I believe that some of those became a hype with a very high expectations without understanding the basis. Okay, and I think this is what we as a human race are doing essentially with understanding or creating a hype. Probably that I would love to actually make the correction to it. And this is specifically about the GPT, chat. I think it's a huge advancement, okay? But you have to still understand how that actually is working, what the capabilities of those are. Because, right now what it is essentially going to the past experiences, whatever it's being recorded, and based on that, the ChatGPT actually makes the decision or suggestion based on a statistical analysis. Which one is more likely to happen, right? Or which one is more likely to be correct. I'm worried about the future of that because where we are as a humanity is from the learning process, okay? And I don't think that the machines are capable of doing this today. They can do the reinforcement learning, but even a reinforcement learning is essentially on the past experiences. So I'm not really sure how that's going to be addressed. Okay, I'm hoping that we're not going to rely completely on artificial intelligence, but we're going to use artificial intelligence as the additional tool in our toolbox. Okay, to do the advancements in the technology and the humanity.
Definitely, ChatGPT is very high in terms of expectations on the hype cycle, if you like. So yeah. Okay. As getting close to the end of the episode, one thing I wanted to ask you is, what is your today's view on Poland? It happened that you, while building KatalX, you cooperate with, you got closer to Polish IT industry, which I imagine you may not have been in close relationship with for past few years. So when you look at IT in Poland today, like what's the perception? How does it look like from the outside?
Yeah, so when I left Poland, right, and I left in 86, 88, right, I had no idea about computing or slight idea. I mean, I was on a Spectrum Plus.
Oh, yeah.
I was like a first computer, but with the basic, language.
As we all used to
As
do.
we all used to, yes. And then was Atari, of course, and etc. Right? But I was not really into this. So I do not know actually the state of that when I was leaving, but throughout the years, I noticed that background of Polish students in mathematics and physics give them advantage, okay, to be a good engineers. I think they all have very good foundation, okay, to be a good engineer. I think it's still mathematics and physics advance you much farther than coming from the business and become the engineer, become the developer. I have a high regards, for the Polish engineering. I've been working with them for many, many years. I observe Eastern European, community on the development. I'm really impressed how they work, the work ethics, their smartness, their capabilities actually to attack the problem. And be honest. I mean, this is like a transparency is like it's so important. Especially in the softwares, right? When you manage the, when you help basically the patient lives are depending on the software. Okay, the transparency is so important. Okay, and I like the seriousness of the Polish engineers when they attack this, and they joking on the side, but they very serious about their work and the jobs. So I think there's a very good engineering group growing up in Poland and Eastern European community in general as well.
Thomas, thank you very much. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. And I was thinking that you're going to ask me the last question in Polish. So.
I will keep it consistent across the whole episode. This was piąTech, another episode, unusually held in English. My name is Marcin Kowalski. I'm the CTO of GFT Poland, and my guest today was Thomas Zakrzewski, CTO of KatalX. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Marcin.